This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmony, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. It's Tuesday today and therefore we're doing a top 5 list. And as you've seen already from the thumbnail and everything, I'm going to be talking about underrated albums today. Not, it has to be said, for the first time, but it's been a while since I've done a video like this. And as I often say when I'm doing these top 5 kind of list sort of videos, ask me next week and the list could be either completely or just subtly different. So I thought it was time to give this one an airing, this topic an airing once again. All of the albums on today's list are either not very well known and therefore I think will benefit from something of a wider airing if I can lend them that, or maybe they are well known but they are living in the shadow of another slightly more well-known album or more highly regarded album by the same band, or maybe they are very well-known but just not very highly regarded because the music press and the critics and the opinion formers, whoever they may be, have decided that this is not this band's best output. Well, I beg to differ, and I'm going to talk about an album like that first on the list. Here it is.
Chinatown by Thin Lizzy.
I didn't know that Chinatown wasn't a highly regarded album, to be honest with you. It's one of my favourite Thin Lizzy albums. It's not up there with Black Rose, which is probably my all-time favourite Thin Lizzy studio album. I just don't think there's a bad track on that. If I'm honest, there are a couple of tracks on this album that I'll think, well, yeah, I might skip past that one. The acid test, I seem to think, is, do you remember, those of you who were old enough will remember the old personal cassette player, the Walkman and the various clones of that, and you always used to keep a ballpoint pen handy, so you didn't want to waste your batteries fast forwarding or rewinding, so you'd take the cassette out, stick this in one of the spools and go like that to kind of either fast forward or rewind. I don't think there's a track on this album that would make me go to that effort to skip past, but there's maybe one or two that I'll just, kind of nudge past. But by and large, I think it's a really strong album. I think Snowy White brings something, more of a smoothness to the band on this album. I just think he was... you had the insane kind of cocaine and whiskey fueled antics of Brian Robertson, and then you had the melodic aggression of Gary Moore on Black Rose. Snowy White just brought a little bit more, I think, sophistication to proceedings on this album. If it is let down by anything, I think it's possibly the production. I would have loved to have heard what this album would have sounded like if it had been produced by Tony Visconti, like the previous one, Black Rose, was. So, yeah, all in all, I think it's a strong album. I certainly don't think it's, a weak album, which some people seem to think that it is, and it's best kind of glossed over. There's some good stuff on this. The title track, Killer on the Loose, We Are Strong. Loads of great tracks on this. Signature Thin Lizzy sounds. Twin guitar harmonies, and Phil's inimitable vocals and bass playing. Yeah, I just think it's a strong album. Anyway, I'm blethering. Let's move on to the next one. Next,
A Hard Road by John Mayall's Bluesbreakers.
The John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers album, which features the talents of Mr. Peter Green. I just think this is... I'm not saying that the Beano album is a bad album, okay? The Beano album with Eric Clapton is a good album. I listen to it a lot, okay? But I think this is a stronger one. I really do. You know, if we're talking kind of blues instrumentals, then on the Beano album, you've got Stepping Out and Hideaway. On this album, you've got the Supernatural and you've got the Stumble. And, you know, just those have it for me, really. I just think Peter's playing on this album is there. He's, you know, this is what Peter Green is as a guitar player. You know, I don't think he ever really, you know, kind of bettered what he played on this album. But I think Clapton still had some work to do, you know, concerning how he played on the Beano album. Again, I'm not dissing what he's playing. I just think he was better a few albums down the line, namely the Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs album. So for that reason, Hard Road. If I had to pick one John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers album, it would be this over the Beano album. Next.
Life by Thin Lizzy.
Second album on the list by Thin Lizzy. You think of a Thin Lizzy live album and you immediately think Live and Dangerous. And again, it is, you know, a standout album. There is some debate about how live it actually is. You know, there's talk of... well, I think Brian Robertson says, you know, there were maybe one or two backing vocal parts that were redone in the studio after the fact. But then you get other people saying it was like 75% redone in the studio. Who knows? But it's a great live album. But I also think this is. It comes from the final tour they did. And they knew they were... I think going to take a break, which obviously, you know, given Phil's tragic passing a couple of years later, was, you know, that was it for the band. The album that had come out was Thunder and Lightning, featuring very sadly missed Mr. John Sykes in the lead guitar role there. You know, because Scott Gorham was like the constant from, you know, I guess like when the band kind of went from being a power trio, Eric Bell, Brian Downey, Phil Lynott, and then they decided to go with two guitarists. Scott Gorham was very much a fixture, and it was whoever was on the other side of the stage. You had Brian Robertson, you had Gary Moore, you had Midge Ure at one point, which often surprises some people. But yeah, John Sykes, and of course Snowy White. But John Sykes was in the band for this, and the band had a much kind of more aggressive, leaning possibly towards what would become an 80s metal kind of sound rather than a 70s classic rock kind of sound. But it was still fine. It's still great. And you've got like live versions of some great songs on here that, you know, hadn't been recorded yet by the time of Live and Dangerous. Fantastic version of Black Rose on here, you know, and songs like from the Thunder and Lightning album, you know, The Sun Goes Down, Cold Sweat, you know, and Angel of Death, I think, is on there as well. It's just, I think it's a really great live album. And then they do, I think the set closer is a barnstorming version of one of their earlier tunes, The Rocker. And every guitar player I think that's ever been in Thin Lizzy came out and took a solo on that. You know, I think you had Snowy White, you certainly had Gary Moore. Did Eric Bell come out? I don't think he did. But Robbo was there as well, I believe. And it was just, you know, it's a magical album, I think. It's a great sort of swan song. You know, it's if you're going to finish a band's career, then do it with a live album, and do it with a live album like this. There is a real, I think, air of celebratory joy about this album, and yeah, I really rate it. Next.
If this is rock and roll, I want my old job back, by the Saw Doctors.
Yeah, this is one. The picture you can see there, that's not the band. That's the fathers of the guys in the band. When you flip the album over and look at the back cover, you will see the actual band. This album came out at some point in the early 90s, I think. And if you're not familiar with the Saw Doctors, then, by the way, if you're not familiar with any of these albums I'm talking about, there's links in the description to go and check them all out, so please go and do that. This album, if you're in a bad mood, if you've had a rough day, if things, if you've kind of lost a quid and found 20 pence, if you've had one of those kind of days, then put this album on. It'll put a smile back on your face, I guarantee it. Who are the Saw Doctors? They're an Irish kind of Celtic folk country rock band of some description. You could describe them as being a bit like the Pogues, but where they differ is that you don't tend to hear much in the way of electric guitar on Pogues songs. It's much more leaning towards the acoustic side of things. But on this album, there are lots of tracks that I think could feature in any top 5 list of the greatest Telecaster tones ever recorded. And the other way that they differ from the Pogues is that they are a more fun band. The Pogues, that you always get the feeling, not on every song, but throughout a lot, if you kind of take an average of their output, there's an anger and an aggression and a punk attitude towards a lot of the Pogue stuff. Whereas with these guys, it's just, it's just fun. They're having fun. They're making music that it's, you can see the big cheesy grins on their faces. They're doing this as they're singing these songs. I mean, standout tracks. The first track, which I think was like a big hit single for them in their homeland of Ireland, I Used to Love Her. That's What She Said Last Night, and Red Cortina is the token ballad on the album, but what a great song it is. Again, check out the Telecaster tone on that. Fantastic album. I love it in 10-foot tall letters. There's not a track on here that I'm tempted to skip past, so I hope if they're new to you, then go and check this one out, and I hope you enjoy it too. Next,
Trampoline by the Mavericks.
Yes, remember the Mavericks? That cheesy one-hit wonder from the late 90s, Dance the Night Away. As a guitar teacher, that song was brilliant for me, because if you put a capo at the 2nd fret and learned a D shape and an A shape, you could play this song all the way through. That's it, just 2 chords throughout the whole song, and you could get a beginner within 2 or 3 lessons playing a song that sounded exactly like it did on the radio. So that was I used to milk that one quite a lot. But it's not like it's a fun little song, but it's not something that you class as memorable or groundbreaking. And to be fair, this album you wouldn't call anything on it that either. But it is a great album. First of all, it is beautifully recorded. You know how we all have 1 or 2 albums that we use to check out a new set of headphones or some new speakers or something like that, because you think, well, yeah, I know this is a beautifully recorded album and well produced. Well, this is one of those albums. It's a kind of mix between country, blues, Cajun, little bits of, I guess, dare I say, jazz in there, but polite jazz. Frank Sinatra, kind of crooner style jazz in there. And, again, some great guitar tones and just memorable songs. Things like Dream River, beautiful song. Someone Should Tell Her, Fool Number One. Just go and listen to any of these songs. That big hit single that everybody still of a certain age still remembers, Dance the Night Away. That's just one of those songs that it was a bit like, how More Than Words off that Extreme album wasn't representative of what that album was about musically, but it sold lots of copies of the album. Well, think of Dance the Night Away as being a similar kind of thing on this album. It sold truckloads of the album, but it's not really representative of what the album's about. So hopefully I've piqued your curiosity on that. As I say, links to all of these albums in the description, so go and check them out. And there are My current list of 5 underrated, overlooked, and in one particular case, unfairly dissed albums by some artists that I listen to a lot. Let me know if you have a list of similar albums yourself. Put that down in the comments. Also, if you have opinions on any of the albums I've been talking about, if you agree with me, or if you think I'm a blithering idiot and I've been talking absolute cobblers for the last, however long I've been talking, probably about 10-15 minutes, then stick that down in the comments as well. Every little helps. It keeps the algorithm awake, as they say. But that's it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the video and found it entertaining in some small way. And if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget, of course, the live stream every Friday, 5 PM UK time. We drink beer and we talk about stuff. That's basically it. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.